Hey there. Welcome to episode 1 of the Athena Arena podcast, the content and digital marketing strategy academy for aspiring 6, 7, and 8-figure, what I call Wonder Woman brands, and mastering your inner game. And for all of you gorgeous and talented men out there, don't let the Wonder Woman brands things throw you. This is as much for men as it is for women. And I'll have more about the whole Athena Arena and Wonder Woman brand thing in an upcoming episode. This digital marketing podcast is intended to take you from online overwhelm, meaning you can't keep up and don't know where to begin, to deep-rooted clarity and confidence as to where to begin on your content marketing journey, building a successful online business, and letting go of the overwhelm and perfectionism tendencies that may be running your digital marketing show. Trust me, you do not need to be everywhere doing everything whatsoever. Now here's something different about this podcast. It's also intended to help you master your inner game, and not necessarily in the way you would think. And I will address mastering your inner game in next week's episode. But in the meantime, my name is Liz Gracia, and I have been running a small digital marketing agency since 2009. I started off specializing in SEO-driven WordPress website designs for small businesses, conscious solopreneurs, and many in the mind, body, spirit kind of holistic alternative health and life coaching realm. That's kind of been my main topic. I have a bit of affinity for helping those types of professionals, and many people come back to me and say, "Liz, oh my God, you so get me," and I understand how I get them. I'm not your usual search engine optimization expert and website designer. I have a deeper understanding of mind, body, spirit type of stuff, which is not to say that's all I do. I have many deep understandings in helping people run businesses and market themselves. So, since 2009, I've tackled all areas of the digital marketing landscape, trust me, including search engine optimization, which is also known as SEO. I've been doing SEO since 1999, really, when I did my first e-commerce website way back in the heyday of bursting into the internet. I also love to do keyword research and understanding how to get found on Google searches, as an example. And I love developing a content marketing strategy in general around the understanding of what I find in my keyword research. I also will be talking about personal branding and the significance of branding in general. This is huge, and all of these tie together. These are the steps that I would take into the whole process of developing a content marketing strategy for myself or any other business. We're also going to talk about email marketing and list building. Creating lead magnets are super important, and that's those little pop-ups or little freebies that you see on almost every website you visit. There's hey, give me your email, but what are you going to get in exchange for that? That's called a lead magnet in marketing world. We'll talk about those. We'll talk about building sales funnels, A/B split testing landing pages and email opt-in forms, pay-per-click advertising, social media marketing, video marketing, podcasting, and so much more. And the intention is to make it fun, tell stories, give examples, and not be so dry at all. I like to have a sense of humor, and I intend to be self-deprecating because I've made plenty of mistakes that are kind of worthwhile. You got to make mistakes so that, you have relativity, okay, that didn't work, let's try something new. So we're going to share a lot of things about building a business. Digital marketing is the focus, but of course we can talk about all kinds of other business building things as well. So, before I go much further, the format of this podcast is intended to alternate between online marketing and business-related topics to mastering your inner game or mindset growth topics. And mastering your inner game and mindset are kind of similar. Mindset is a more commonly understood phrase, but we're going to go deeper in kind of the energetic level. This is what you're going to learn in that kind of mastering your inner game type of thing. And this is how I think I set myself apart from most other digital marketing podcasts. And it's all related. I mean, marketing is an energy field. Let's make sure you're aligned with your intentions and what you hope to do in your marketing efforts. That's where the inner game comes into play. So, in any event, if you prefer one over the other, then you'll know there are 2 episodes a month of each. I'm just going to alternate them every other week. One's going to be a marketing business focused one, and then we're going to go to the inner game. Now, beyond digital marketing, I've been a business owner in one way or another right out of college, and I have a lot to offer on the business building topic in general. In fact, if you're a fan of Nantucket Island or spent summers during college there, or growing up as a kid, or if you have a second home there now or you like to visit there now, then you may have come across or heard of the restaurant called the Morning Glory Cafe, which I managed and owned for 15 years, starting in my sophomore year in college. I was a bit of a go-getter back then, and it was I have stories I can share around that. Building that business was quite the challenge, let me tell you. And just on another topic related to the restaurant, if you've ever had a Morning Glory a Morning Glory muffin, they're sold all over the country now, in bakeries all over the country, on restaurant menus all over the country. That recipe was born out of my restaurant, the Morning Glory Cafe. So let me tell you, there is so much insight and wisdom to be earned running a seasonal, incredibly busy restaurant with lines out the door most of the day, out of a challenging facility, not to mention the staffing and housing issues on it. I mean, there's tons of problems in this type of operation, which only makes you stronger, let me tell you. There were, mid-August, when most of the staff ran off to college, that was our busiest time of the season, those last 2 weeks in August. And I literally would work 20-hour days. I don't know how we did it, but many of it, we had to do it. I mean, just because it was a breakfast, lunch, and dinner joint. And we had 50 employees, and then it would drop to like 25. It's like, whoops, what are we going to do now? So there's so much insight and wisdom that I gained from that experience just to keep up with it all. Never mind the staffing. The facility was a huge challenge. We were on this pier in the harbor of Nantucket where the truck drivers, we needed tons of food to come in every week. And this literally a former scallop shack had the place was falling apart. It didn't have any heat, so that was a problem. Wasn't that much of a problem in the summer, and we had 2 floors, and all of the goods had to be dragged up 12 very narrow steps or more. I think it was more like 16 very narrow steps into this crappy little second floor area for storage and food prep, and all that stuff went on the second floor. And imagine a case of eggs. You couldn't fit it up widthwise the way you'd naturally want to carry it. You'd have to, it was just crazy. All the hardships that were involved in running that restaurant and everything that you can learn about, dealing with vendors and getting supplies on a ferry. It's an island, so everything comes over on a ferry. So logistics, everything you could ever think of can happen in an MBA class happens running a seasonal restaurant on Nantucket, let me tell you. So, there's some other businesses that I have launched since then. And while I was running the restaurant, I got bored and wanted something more. And I was always inspired by all the design and creativity and beautiful homes and beautiful goods in stores on Nantucket. So I wanted to open my own. So I started a specialty home furnishings, gifts, and decor store in Nantucket, which eventually turned into a full-time retail operation in Boston's Back Bay. I started off on Newbury Street and then eventually moved over to Clarendon Street, which actually turned out to be a great move for many reasons. So there's so much I learned in, going to trade shows, buying goods, learning about cash flow, learning about staffing. It was a much easier staffing situation in Boston than on Nantucket, that's for sure. And then I had the Nantucket one open at the same time. So I had 2 stores and a restaurant, and there's a lot going on. When you start to delegate, you got to start delegating management to others. So that's just something, and I did that for 10 years. So from this, I branched, while I had the retail store in Boston, I had tons of tourists. And I built an email list kind of unwittingly of 10,000 strong, not really thinking too much about it. I'm like, you know what? This is a natural for a mail order catalog, because back then we didn't really have the web and, e-commerce websites just yet. So I built a couple of mail order catalogs, which was not capitalized enough to do that venture, but I gave it a shot regardless. And then thankfully the internet came into being, and I built my first e-commerce website, which back then was a challenge. It's, still building an e-commerce website is a challenge, all the moving parts to it. And back then when I realized I just spent all this time creating an e-commerce website. How the bleep is anyone ever going to find me? And that's where I learned about search engine optimization, keyword marketing research. And back then it was like spam. Everything was, you were kind of took advantage of the internet. You could spam the hell out of a web page and not get punished for it. But, it all evolved, and we all understood, okay, we got to provide excellent content that's readable and not full of stuffed with keyword phrases just to get people to land on the page. You got to start to show some integrity and interest in developing content that would be of interest to the searcher, blah, 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 blah. So I did that, and that was in 1999, and that was the Wild West back then of the internet. So it also led to developing, I sold a lot of handcrafted goods, which I'm an artist at heart. And I really was inspired, like, oh my God, I want to create my own line of wholesale goods, which I did eventually do. And I was undercapitalized enough to do it after I went to I developed these handmade cards that were stunningly beautiful, along with some picture frames. And I did my first trade show in New York City at the Javits Center, which I'd gone to trade shows for decades as a business, a retail business owner. I'd go all over the country to trade shows to buy goods, like the High Point Furniture Show. I'd go to that. That thing is huge and overwhelming. I've been to shows in Vegas and New York and Philadelphia, all kinds of shows. So been there, done that in the trade show realm. We can have a big talk about that in one of the podcasts if anyone's interested. So in any event, I did my first trade show as a vendor at the New York International Stationery Show. And it was so fun to do, and I had tremendous feedback. And in fact, I had buyers from Target come and say, oh my God, how can we buy your stuff? And they're like, do you have a manufacturer in China? I'm like, no, I don't. So I wasn't prepared, and I had a lot of people that would help me get manufacturing done in China and go through the whole importing and manufacturing process. So it was a great experience, but I was undercapitalized and realized selling cards, making $5 an hour isn't going to, pay the rent. So I did the best that I could for a year or two, and I kind of let it go by the wayside because it I didn't have it in me to go the distance. I also did a stint with developing imprinted t-shirts too. That was fun because it sparked my interest in design. But my stumbling block is I do not like selling that. So I have a block to selling, and I understood that back then. So I quit. I'm not much of a quitter. I'm pretty darn persistent, let me tell you. But in any event, there are tons of topics we can talk about outside of digital marketing. Though we can cover it. We're going to do digital marketing. It's the main focus here. But if you have other questions, I want you to ask me. So on that topic, if you have particular questions or topics beyond digital marketing, I do welcome them. And you can ask me a question that could eventually become a podcast by simply going to the athenaarena.com. That's THE, Athena, ATHENA, Arena, RENA.com /questions. And there'll be a comments area there where you can submit your questions. And if it's something I can answer, and you're going to have to give me your email when you do that, but I'll reply to your comment as to whether it will become a podcast or not, and make sure you get a response to your interest in whatever question you may have. So this podcast is going to come out every Tuesday, and next week I will cover the topic of mastering your inner game. This is going to be episode number 2 of the Athena Arena podcast here. Mastering your inner game. What does it mean and why does it matter? This is going to could be a revelation to many of you and super enlightening when you take a look at your inner game, your energy field, your level of consciousness from a different point of view. Thank you for joining me as we evolve in creating simple, impactful content marketing strategies for your business and mastering your inner game. I'll see you next week.